2018, I decided to jump off the corporate hamster wheel to find the meaning of life, essentially my grand divine purpose. I was actually pretty successful at that point, reaching the pinnacle of my success, holding down high-profile jobs, leading global organizations for tech companies, both private and public. But I was feeling so miserable every single day and nobody knew about it. Deep inside, I had this perpetual anxiety and insecurity about being found out, that I wasn't smart enough, that I wasn't worthy enough, that I wasn't good enough. And all along I was thinking, if only I could escape this career and start my own thing, then I wouldn't be miserable. So it's been 4 years since I made that eventual leap. And I gotta tell you that I have learned a lot about finding your purpose. And this video isn't just about the typical video that you would find about finding your purpose. There are some real gems in here that I think could be really helpful for you if you are considering in leaving your job and starting your own thing. So my invitation is, before you take that ultimate leap in your life, please watch this video first. And at the end of the video, I'm going to share with you how you can work with me, and together we can create a plan that will allow you to bulletproof your decision and really start to create the experience and the life that you desire. Hi, I'm Espiritu, and I'm a well-being and empowerment coach. I help both men and women navigate the inner turmoil that they're experiencing inside, discover all of these programs, likely from childhood, that are no longer serving you, and rewire them so that you can live the most confident, courageous, and empowered life possible. So one of the things that my clients often ask me is, how do I find my purpose? And I feel like the pandemic actually ushered all of us to start looking at our current life and starting to understand what's not working anymore. And so this topic and this question about what is my life purpose, I find that everybody is really grappling with. I think that there are some people out there who are super clear about their purpose and just go for it. But if you're someone like me who grew up in an environment, particularly in childhood, where your caregiver or your parents really dictated every inch of your step, every direction to take, really determined what's good versus bad, and really got you trained to rely on them for the answers, it's going to be very difficult to so-called find your purpose. Why? Because you are not wired to trust your own intuition. As a matter of fact, you're not only wired to trust your own intuition, you're probably not also wired to get connected to it. So even if it was right in front of you, the answer to your life purpose was in front of you, you wouldn't be able to recognize it nor trust it because you were not taught to trust yourself. So this is kind of what happened to me. I have an amazing mom who was really strong-willed and essentially just really dictated the direction of my life, didn't really create space for me to think for myself, and really determined what was good versus bad. And just like talking about not really being able to think for myself, actually being able to think for myself had consequences, particularly for the Asian culture. For all of you Asians out there, you will relate that, being able to have a perspective, a personal perspective on anything was a big no-no, right? Like, this would be considered talking back. And so I pretty much grew up not really trusting myself, not really honoring what was happening inside of me, nor was I really trained to, again, think for myself. And so at an early age, I was already pretty disconnected from my intuition. And most importantly, I was not taught to trust myself, because trusting myself actually had consequences. And so this actually expresses itself in adulthood, right? So for me, I pretty much always needed an authority figure to figure things out for me, to tell me what to do, to give me direction. And so when I left corporate America and decided to go on my own and start my own business, I really struggled because it was not ingrained in me to trust myself and to only rely on, again, these authority figures to basically tell me what to do. And so I just want to say, just quickly interrupt myself and say that this is not our parents' fault. Oftentimes we are parented in the way that our parents were parented. And so this is very much an intergenerational thing where, certain things get passed on from one generation to the next, particularly again for Asian cultures where, a lot of us, kind of had authority figures that told us what to do. So this was obviously helpful as a child, right? Being obedient meant that I was going to make my mom happy. But this had consequences as an adult because, when I became an adult, then I would have this reliance on authority figures, which are the modern day mom, right? When we don't have our moms anymore, we have other authority figures in our life. And I pretty much relied on them to tell me what to do, to basically know what is right versus wrong. So essentially, I was still living out my childhood in my present day reality. And so you can imagine that when I decided to start my coaching business, I really struggled. I really struggled because at the end of the day, I always needed that validation from outside of me. And most importantly, I didn't have the capacity to trust myself. These patterns actually stem from childhood because, like I said earlier, when I would trust my intuition and actually act on it, it would be considered, answering back or talking back, and it would have real life consequences. I've been on this journey for the last 4 years of, personal development and really just being on this consciousness journey. And it's taken me 4 years to figure it out. I actually kept flip-flopping back and forth. I actually joined a nonprofit organization because I was, again, really addicted to an authority figure telling me what to do. I could not launch the inner leader inside of me. And so I want to share with you guys a few learnings that I would invite you to explore as you think about taking this really big step in your life and pursuing what you really want to do. Okay, so here are some things that I learned about finding your purpose. Number one, you have to first recognize that inner voice inside of you. Learn to read it, to understand it, to recognize it, trust it, and then take action. This means training yourself out of your validation-seeking tendencies and learning how to make decisions on your own. I kind of see this as a bit of training because obviously we don't want to start with the big decisions. We want to start with the small things just to get yourself and your intuition activated. So, for me, I really, I used to ask people, what kind of shampoo do you use, and rather than trusting my own inner intelligence, I would have to get validation even on my use of shampoo. And so little by little, I started to not ask people for validation, and instead, even if I felt unsure, I would make a decision against that with the primary goal of training myself to act on my intuition. Listen, guys, the more that we listen to our intuition, the stronger it gets. It's kind of like when we don't use our muscle, it goes away, right? Same thing with intuition. Okay, number two, finding your purpose is not like solving a puzzle where you sit down with a pen and piece of paper and voila, you discover it right then and there. It's kind of a discovery process, if you will. I always tell my clients, let's actually come up with a few experiments and try to figure out how you can get closer to understanding what your purpose is. I oftentimes will say more information, will illuminate as you move through your journey,
right? I try to walk through my clients not by like, hey, like let's figure out what your life purpose is, that's something that you're going to spend the rest of your life doing, but rather in increments, and getting them to actually start to understand what is it that really lights me up. And the only way that you can really know what lights me up is to actually experience it. And so this is, again, a discovery process and not something that you can solve overnight. Number 3, finding your purpose doesn't necessarily need to be a lifetime thing. That sounds like such a daunting task. I mean, gosh, I don't even know what I'm having for lunch tomorrow, let alone understanding what I'm going to be spending the rest of my life doing. There are going to be people who are like, yes, I know what I need to do and I want to do it. It's kind of like Elon Musk, right? Like he just knows exactly what he needs to do and he guns for it, and he's going to do that probably for the rest of his life. Maybe, maybe not. But there are some people out there that just have a big overarching goal like that. But for many of us, it's really all about just creating markers in your life, whether that's like, what is going to be my purpose? My purpose is to discover my purpose. And so what is that 1 month mark? Or what is that 6 month mark? Or what is that 1 year mark or 2 year mark? Again, as I said earlier, that as more information becomes available to you, as you're moving through the journey, you will have more information to work with that will illuminate what path you're meant to take. What I would recommend and invite you to explore is perhaps coming up with a set of intentions of how you want to make an impact in the world. And then from there, right, like you have your overarching understanding of how you want to show up for the world. From there are many different pathways to take. And so choosing 1 or 2 or 3 and launching yourself into a series of experiments will then help you understand, like checking in with yourself, like, does this feel good? Does this not feel good? And so again, lifetime feels really daunting for me personally. I know that for me, coaching is one of the things that I'm going to be doing, but is it going to be the thing that I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? Who really knows? I can't tell that, primarily because I haven't experienced all of it yet. And number 4 is I was already living out my purpose well before I figured out my purpose. We are meant to be in this journey right here, right now for a reason. And perhaps, like you've lived out the experiences that you're meant to have, and that you're ready to actually start to explore your grander purpose in life. But you needed to live it out until this moment, right? I wish I had listened to this, because again, I spent so much mental and emotional energy anchoring my worth in this grander life purpose, when in fact, I was already, and I have always been, and will always be whole and complete as I am. There's a level of trust in our experiences and in the season that we're in right now that we are meant to learn. Now is the time for you to graduate and live out your grander purpose in life. If this video resonated at all with you, and some of the concepts that I talked about resonated, and you want to work with me on coming up with a plan on what your next step should be, I have a few spots left in terms of coaching. Please visit Espiritu.com or leave me a comment down below, and I'll get back to you. And guys, this isn't just about me. This is, if you're feeling inspired or want to make some really big decisions, I would really invite you to explore, working with a coach, because these decisions are life-changing, and you would want someone to be able to work with you and serve as a powerful mirror for you to help you understand, like, what are the steps that I need to take in order to experience my purpose, right? Or be on that trajectory anyway. And my invitation is to work with a coach who has already lived through this experience, so that you're not working with them against a bunch of theories, but rather through their own lived experience. I mean, I've worked with lots of coaches before, and I'm telling you, like, I always zero in on what they've experienced already and where they've gotten. So hopefully this video was helpful to you guys. Please subscribe and like this video, and obviously questions or comments, leave me at the bottom below. Love and light.